This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Coda-proved Diaz will still have to work hard to wrestle the crown away from his teammate. But working hard is exactly what he's doing, because despite being down 2 wins to Acosta's 3, Michael holds the lead in the championship by a single point. What's the difference? Bonus points, of course. Those precious few that can be gained each race look like they will indeed be a deciding factor this season. And we'll see who grabs them today as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Having now passed the halfway point, we've hopped across the pond to good old Silverstone. Like many British tracks, the history of this place stems from an old World War II Air Force base. But to really get a look at it here in modern times, let's take a glance at a few of the ins and outs of this classic track. Welcome to Silverstone. Most famously known for being the first circuit to host a round of Formula One, this place has since become synonymous with British motorsports. Hosting everything from sports cars to touring cars to open wheels and even motorcycles, it's a track that fits a wide variety of vehicles. With 3 different layouts to choose from, you've got a little something for any level of racing. The longest of those layouts boasts 18 turns along 3.19 miles. That comes out to 5.13 kilometers in metrics, so it can take a bit to get around it, even in higher-powered machinery. Its main characteristics are the high-speed straights and corners and general lack of elevation change. Its most famous set of turns is most definitely the Maggots-Beckett sequence, in which anything with high downforce finds itself challenged with the rapid changes of direction. However, don't discount the first couple corners in this latest iteration of the track. Abbey and Farm often require a greatly balanced car and some serious bravery if you're side-by-side. Corners such as Village, Brooklyn, Stowe, and Vale see the majority of overtaking action, but in cars with less horsepower, expect the draft to offer other opportunities. The Hangar Straight is perhaps the most notorious for draft battles to erupt. All in all, this versatile racetrack located just northwest of London provides both history in its roots and action on the tarmac. The huge number of British fans that typically attend events are seldom left wanting. We see a few of the details of this circuit, but to give us a better idea of how these GTE cars will handle on this layout, Sam, tell us a little bit more about what today holds in the race.
Yeah, well, this is a fairly modernized version of the Silverstone circuit. There we go, Joe. You can see it looks a little bit more twistier than it did back in the day. The average speed of the circuit, I believe, has decreased, but it still has the long straights, including the infamous Hangar Straight and the Maggots-Beckett sequence that leads into it. Some high-speed corners there that can, if you get those turns wrong, you're going to be in for a little bit of a ride. 3.19 miles is the total length for a lap around this course. And we'll be seeing what kind of race these drivers will put on for us today.
Certainly will. Well, thankfully you get to watch that today, because today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a ButtKicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Big thanks to both of our sponsors for today, but we've got a championship that we've been talking about, which could be a little bit different today depending on who winds up showing up before qualifying is over. So let's go over the points before we hit that. Diaz, as I mentioned, only one ahead of Acosta. They each have won every single of the 5 rounds so far. Christian Eisler, though, even though he's 21 points behind, with today looking like Diaz and Acosta are not here currently, this is his chance to start to gain inroads on them. Now, David Holland and Leif Peterson round out 4th and 5th, but neither have been quite as fast as those top 3 that we've seen so far this season. Let's take a look at the team's championship, Sam, and how is that shaping up?
Well, just like the Drivers' Championship, Joe, it could turn out to be quite different at the end of the day with Diaz and Acosta not here. Could shake things up. The top 2 teams, though, Movano Racing and Punto CL Racing, have a huge margin over the rest of the field. RSR eSports sitting over 70 points back of the leader, but yet they are 3rd overall. You have to go about another 20 points back to get to V-Power Racing sitting 4th in the team standings, and One Sim GTR White rounds out the top 5.
Pretty close fight there for 4th between those last 2. Let's take a look at the race details as well. And as I mentioned, we are in round 6. Now, they do have a drop week, and that might be the saving grace for our 2 championship leaders if they do not show up in the end. There's 4 different cars that you can choose from, but you can't swap them around over the course of the season. You got to pick one and stick with it: the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Ford, the BMW. The race distance, as it is all season long, is 60 minutes, and it is an open setup for each of these cars. They have an incident cap, so you can find yourself disqualified if you abuse the track limits here, which is doable in a number of places. And there's those bonus points that I was talking about. Fastest lap, pole, or less than 3 incidents. Any of those 3 could get you some bonus points, and only the less than 3 incidents can be shared. Obviously, the pole and the fastest lap are one that they will have to squabble over out here today. You don't have to squabble over watching on the TV, hopefully. If you've got a computer separate from the TV, you can watch here on the iRacing eSports network on YouTube. Make sure and subscribe to the channel when you've got the opportunity. Just click the big red button that says subscribe, and you won't miss a moment here on IESN. Currently in qualifying, Christopher Pfeffer, who is back after a couple bad weeks, unfortunately, both at Road Atlanta and last week as well, that we had at COTA. But he's got provisional pole. Christopher Eisler, we mentioned, is up in the points, but right now he's got to do some work to try and get that pole away, and his first 2 timed laps don't look quick enough, Sam.
Yeah, well, he actually just backed off to let a couple of cars who were on the hot lap by. So Eisler, I think, has been getting his car ready for another timed lap, because this could be a big day today, Joe, for Eisler, obviously with the absence of our 2 points leaders. If he can get a bunch of points today, and of course a bunch of points could also mean bonus points. So he would love to get that pole position today. Yeah, but Eisler, I mean, I'm sure he'd love to take away the win today, but he's just got to have a clean race. He can't afford to get in a wreck and throw away this great opportunity he has in front of him.
Pfeffer's not really, honestly, in the hunt for the championship currently, so this would just simply be for pride and redemption after his poor rounds. We're watching Enriquez down there in 13th, and he stays in 13th with that last lap. So we switch over to Kenny Rodriguez instead, and he does improve with that latest one, so that's going to bump him up to 17th.
And it's 2 minutes a lap here as Eisler has aborted his latest attempt at the flyer. But of course you can see we have 4 minutes left in the session, so still enough time for these drivers to get 2, maybe even 3 laps in, depending on where they are on the track. Can't afford to put a wheel off though. That will be a cut course penalty. And if you get a good view of a final chicane at some point during our qualifying show or any of the show at all, you will see there are a couple of nasty sausage curbs coming through the final couple of corners before the finish line. You don't want to hit those at the wrong angle, even in these cars, Joe.
Yeah, I noticed they've got those at a couple of the slower corners, interestingly. So certainly we'll have to watch and see if anybody gets some sort of damage or maybe upsets the car too much from doing so. Now, Sam, fans of Formula One are plenty familiar with this layout by now, but if we have any viewers who haven't necessarily seen this latest version of Silverstone due to the old one that we had on iRacing for a while, do the passing zones change at all with this new layout?
Well, there's still plenty of opportunities for passes and battles around here, Joe. I think Formula One fans would have recognized that with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen battling earlier this season. Half of the track is kind of untouched, after the reconfiguration about 10 or so years ago, the Hannah Straight, Maggots, Beckett's and all that, and of course that means Stowe is still a great passing opportunity. And to its credit, the changes that they have made to the circuit have created some nice passing opportunities or chicanes where you could, do an inside and an outside pass, try and cross over your opponent in front of you. So I think we will see some good racing today, no matter what kind of configuration of Silverstone we're on.
I agree. From the few that we've had so far in this latest iteration on GSRC, they've been some very good races. Pfeffer comes back around, but this last lap was not an improvement. His 55.0 still stands, but Eisler has been displaced by Holland, who is now on the front row. I think Christian is just coming around to either finish a hot lap or start a new one. Let's see what this one's going to be. He had an off somewhere because that one did not count, it seems, for the 727.
I think that was maybe just an outlap, Joe. What's critical there, though, is that Eisler crossed the line with 2 minutes, 20 seconds left to go, so he can still get 2 time laps in if he needs it.
Watching a few of those drivers come down towards Abbey, which takes a complete opposite turn of what used to. Heading off to the right into the infield now. So let's take a look at Pegleg. See what Swaby can do, and another one that did not count for him, so he'll stay in 11th place. What about Duhamel? He's coming around to finish a lap. He's only had 1 timed lap, and I'm seeing a lot of blank laps for drivers around here. I talked about those off tracks, and it looks like it really will be a worry here, Sam.
Yeah, but the top 6 are within a second of another. We have 24 cars that have turned in laps. 2 cars in the session who have not turned laps, so and now down to 1 car actually. Gary Schilling is the only driver who hasn't turned a lap, and he's not out there on track, so I guess he just wants to start from the back today.
I'm seeing he's not in the session right now, so he might have taken off. Oh, it looks like actually his connection went out, so he might not even be back just because he can't get back in here. We're watching Cal Quinn now, and he sits in 15th position. Out of Stowe and into the Vale chicane. Past that pit entry, also a little bit different from how it used to be, of course. So he comes around to the line. Let's see what the 666 can do. He's got a 56.8 right now as his quickest lap. Another one that did not count for him, unfortunately.
We're watching Leif Peterson, but I'll tell you, Christian Eisler is also coming through the final turn, and obviously we're keeping a close eye on him to see if he can get some bonus points to upset the point standings. However, he did not improve. He has enough time for another lap.
See, Bacigalupo has abandoned his, so he will not try and improve. Corolla, what's he got on board? Another blank lap for him.
He was the last driver to cross the line before the checker came out, though. So everyone on track can finish this lap. Starting with Lyndon Swaby down in 12th up to 10th.
Nice improvement by him. Elijah Mitchell going to be the next one. He's in 12th position. The 149 is going to abandon it as he comes into the pit lane. So that leaves James LeBlanc next, down in 20th. A lot of room for improvement with a 157.8 as his quickest.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to do at the end of qualifying, especially if you know your lap time isn't anything to write home about. Come down pit road, get one last attempt at pit entry, because you will have to use it during the race. Try and see how late on the brakes you can be. James LeBlanc, though, is on the good lap and improves one position from 20th to 19th. Hopefully he likes that side of the track a bit better.
Exactly. Cal Quinn up next. He's in 15th. He's coming down the hangar straight just in front of us as we ride on board with Enriquez. He's going to follow him home. Cal Quinn is in 15th. Enriquez is up to 9th since we last looked, so he's had a nice improvement in that 55. In fact, he's satisfied with it. He's going to come into pit lane. Cal Quinn is going to stay out. He comes around club now and onto the main straight. Let's see what this one holds. Is this going to be clean? It is, but it is not quicker.
And this final chicane on his attempt to try and get on the front row of a grid, and so that won't count.
Yep,
and I think that just leaves us with Jeff Carullo.
Does indeed. So down into the Vale chicane, sitting in 17th spot. Tracks it all the way out, nearly getting up onto that outside curb and across the line. Another one that unfortunately did not count for him. This does not bode well for our drivers for sure. Clearly it's looking tough to keep it on the track, but that settles our grid out. So let's go through our starting order for today. On the pole, Christopher Pfeffer, again, I mentioned looking for redemption after a couple of miserable rounds for himself, but David Holland is going to try and deny him of that. He's starting around the outside of that front row. Christian Eisler, still winless this season. In fact, it's been a while since he's been on the top step of the podium. Could this be his day to make it happen again from third? Paulo Munoz will be starting P4. Lucas Bacigalupo, we saw he was feisty last week at COTA. He could maybe gain some positions again today with that sort of attitude from fifth. Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes starts in 6th with Antonio Pisano in P7. Leif Peterson, not his best qualifying, but it's never been known to be his strong suit. He'll be 8th with Luis Enriquez in 9th, and then Pegleg, Lyndon Swaby will round out your top 10.
John Ambrose will be rolling off from 11th position ahead of Elijah Mitchell. Jonathan Almanar will be starting in 13th place, and Sean Romig will be alongside him in 14th. Horatio Calkin in the 666 will be starting from 15th ahead of Ted Lowendick, starting from 16th place. Jeff Carullo will be starting from 17th ahead of Stacey Dunnigan. James LeBlanc will be starting from 19th after getting ahead of Kenny E. Rodriguez in 20th place.
Joey Trungale puts it in 21st with Donald Olson in 22nd. Then Sean Duhamel, who we saw put it in 23rd, will be flanked on the outside by Spencer Semkovich in the 24th spot. Francisco Yaniselli is 25th, and Gary Schilling did not reconnect, so he looks like he will be a did not start for today unless he comes in very late into this race as they now line up on the run down to Stowe. It is a rolling start in this series, and the pace car will let them go on that little pit entry to the right just before Vale. There you can see just how long that hangar straight is that Sam was talking about with the potential passing spot into Stowe Corner. I've always found it, at least in these cars, it seems relatively difficult to try to get that done just because of how quick they can take that corner.
Yeah, I'm worried about the car starting in the even numbered positions here, Joe, because the first, well, turn 2 technically is a left-hander, but everyone can pretty much do that flat out. The first 2 heavy corners are right-handers, and it's easy to get pushed out wide by your competitor on the inside. So all the drivers starting on the right-hand side of your screen, as you're seeing it right now, they're going to have to try and keep up with their how do you even say that? Their roommate on each different row, their rowmate, I suppose. They're going to have to try their best to keep up with their rowmate through turns 1 and turns 3, and, you know, kind of stick it on them on the left-hand side if they can, heading in all the Wellington straight.
We now start to take off. And the Porsche of Christopher Pfeffer, splitting up usually what's been the Ferrari dominance so far this season. Maybe they can have a few more scattered among the top 10. Now coming through Vale, they're staying pretty nicely side by side through this portion, waiting for that green flag to wave, but already Pfeffer starting to accelerate away as now the green flag is out and they get single file before they get to Abby. Look at that string of cars already. Nobody interested in trying to take this fast right-hander side by side, at least in the top of the pack. Looking to see if we have any dramas. So far, so good as they plunge into Village.
Oh, but we got a battle for fourth. Lucas Bacigalupo tried to look down the inside of Paulo Munoz, but now he's on the outside, the side that you don't want to be on, because now they go down the straight and Munoz has the edge for fourth position. The drivers swerving down the straight to try and break the slipstream from their competitors behind. Lucas is going to have a runner look on the outside here, Paulo, if he can make it stick. Well, not even going to continue that thought because he can't.
It looks like it is going to go in favor of Munoz, holding on to fourth. And you're right, Pfeffer was weaving quite a bit, even though it's early stages, trying to break the draft on Holland behind. Holland has been very, very fast in the F3 cars on Thursday nights. Hasn't really been as competitive here in the GTE cars, but obviously qualifying looking good as now they come into the Maggots-Beckett sequence.
One in the cookie jar for Joe for calling Christopher Pfeffer. But here comes Pfeffer through the Maggots-Beckett sequence. And now, of course, they're coming up to a great passing opportunity at the end of a Hannah Straight here, Joe, where if you get a nice slipstream, you get a good run coming out of the sequence, you can try and make it stick down the inside. And that's why you see a lot of the field going defensive, covering the inside to make sure that the drivers behind them don't do exactly just that. The first side-by-side we really have is for 8th and 9th place, where Leif Peterson is being challenged on the high side by Luis Henriquez, who is able to pull it off around the outside of Stowe.
Wow, brave move on the very first lap. Henriquez gifted with 8th from that. Oh, he's deep into the corner, though. It'll send him shallow into the second half here into Club, and this opens the opportunity for Peterson to maybe try and attack him back.
And Eisler's challenging Holland. There we go. Second place, Eisler. Maybe.
Oh, just out of the corner of my eye, and he's got it, but Holland's under attack yet again because that's Munoz looking to the inside of Village. Squeezed to the outside now of the loop, and that's way too far outside because there goes Bacigalupo heading out through Aintree and on the Wellington Straight. He's now up to 4th, but look at how close they all are. Holland could maybe try and re-attack here into Brooklands.
Yeah, Munoz put his car in a bad place, so I'm sure Eisler will be happy that he got up to 2nd, but the driver really loving this is our race leader, Pfeffer, who is gapping the field right now, over 2-second lead, while these lot are struggling about.
Really are, and I have to say that it looks like Eisler's team is faring fairly well because that is Fredes, who is his teammate in the number 96, back there in 6th towards the back of this train. He's got Pisano beside him, or behind him rather, but he was challenging at one point on Munoz.
It'll be interesting to see how far Eisler is willing to push it to try and break away from this pack and run our race leader down. Again, I'm sure any kind of race driver sitting in 2nd place doesn't want to be in 2nd place, of course. They want to be in the lead. But is Eisler thinking big picture? You know, does he want to keep his car on the track today and walk away with a good amount of points?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd guess that maybe he's not really in a hurry at this point, waiting for the race to kind of come to him, as that was a big lockup back there. I believe that was Munoz who got him smoked up coming into Vale, and that actually checks them up and gives them a gap to the cars ahead. Fredes backed into Pisano from that move, who takes a little bit of a look into Abby but thinks better of it.
There's a little bit of battling going on in the middle of the field, and you now see that race leader's up to 2.5 seconds. As the drivers get single file doing these twisty parts, there's really not a whole lot to gain unless you have your car in position to make a move on the others. It's best to wait until the Wellington Straight or the Hannah Straight to make a move.
And in fact, it's pretty much single file through most of the field at this point. We're not getting a lot of battles. Sweet. Glance at Pfeffer once again. I worked so hard to get it right last race, and then I screwed up early on this one. But he's got that 2.7 seconds that Sam mentioned over Christian Eisler, who continues to fall back, but is not being run down by Holland. Holland's keeping it at about 0.3 of a second, but has not been within striking distance since we last looked.
Yeah, there's a really nice pack of cars, really. This goes from second all the way back to 15th, Joe. After 15th, who is Jeff Carollo, you kind of enter a 3-second gap back to Stacey Dudenion in 16th, holding up another chain. So all of these drivers can't really afford a mistake. It will cost them several spots.
That was a good exit off of Chapel, rather, from Bacigalupo, but it's not enough of a run. He runs out of straightaway before he can go on the attack on Holland. In fact, they are also leaving behind Munoz. About a lap ago was the one that we saw lock up and has not been able to recover too much, but he has dropped Fredes and Pisano. Ooh, you can see a little bit of a look to the inside in the background there from Pisano on Fredes. If they start fighting, let's not forget Henriquez, who we saw is not afraid to make some risky moves. He's closing in as there's another tiny little lockup from the inside of Fredes.
Yeah, you mentioned that. This will get interesting. We've already seen Luis Henriquez pull off an outside move and stow. Now he's at the back of this pack from second all the way back to 8th. They're tightly knit together. Now this is a passing opportunity potentially for Anthony Pisano, and actually he gets a bit of help from Fredes, so he kind of lets him go.
And then slots back into line. He doesn't want to lose the second one to Henriquez. Fredes now falls to 7th. Pisano up to 6th with that move. Not seeing a lot of drivers who have changed positions since the start as I look through our order right now. It stayed relatively the same of our 25 starters.
Yeah, I think that's a big result of the drivers getting single file at the very start. Probably because none of the drivers starting on the outside, they all knew they didn't want to be on the outside, so they all just dropped in line. It also helped that Pfeffer went really early. They kind of spread them out before they got to the start.
Probably by design. Looking a little bit farther down, Peterson trying to hold off Swaby for that 9th spot. They've also got John Ambrose back there behind him. Going to come up to Vale well before we have the pit window open, so we're not expecting anybody to duck in unless they have dramas. But this is a modern F1 course, and there's a lot of runoff room, so I'm not too shocked that it's been relatively tame out there thus far. I haven't seen anybody really have incidents that would merit entering the pits.
Yeah, and of course that can always, unfortunately, lead the drivers into a false sense of security. That it's like, oh, it's a clean race. You know, maybe the drivers at the back who were counting on a bit of attrition realize, oh, I need to pick up the pace a little bit, and that's where problems start happening. Yeah, I've been looking up and down the order, Joe. What you were saying, that really not a whole lot of big movers. Really, the biggest one has been a driver who's gone in the wrong direction. That's Horacio Calkin. He started 15th and is back to 19th.
Oh. Munoz just went wide there at Brooklands, but he is gaining. He's running Bacigalupo back down, so I spoke too soon. But Lucas is not looking in his mirrors right now. He's been right behind David Holland for that 3rd position. And I keep thinking he's going to try something because he's been awful close, but nothing's happened yet.
Well, it could be about to happen soon as they get through Maggots and Beckett's here. He's probably counting on a good run out of the corner. Oh, I think he got too close too early, Joe. He might have had to back out a little bit there to not run into the back of Holland. That could hurt his momentum down the straight.
Yeah, he looked much stronger on the way in, more so than the way out, it seems. And he falls back away from the rear of Holland's Ferrari. Those two still chasing the 727 of Eisler up ahead of them, who has lost a few more tenths on Christopher Pfeffer. It's It's now 3.1 seconds. Oh, I think we had a slowdown penalty for Stacy Dunn again. They are way off the pace, and indeed, yes, it was coming out of Chapel, it seems. Let's take a look and see what caused this. Here's the 899 Ferrari. Oh, yeah. Cut far inside there. Not sure if that caused it. Maybe we'll see watching Chapel here. Yeah, that was it. Wide at Chapel, pulls off the racing line, and the Georgia driver has to let a whole bunch by down the hanger straight.
Yeah, Stacey had already been having the race going in the wrong direction. Started 16th, was down to 18th, and now is all the way down into 21st, so lost another 3 positions from that. Eisler has not been running away from that battle for third, even though Holland has pressure from Bassigalupo. He hasn't lost touch on Eisler. They're about 3 seconds back of our race leader right now. But I guess I've got to ask, Joe, for viewers who didn't watch a race at COTA where Pfeffer came along, or even for co-commentators who were busy playing craps in Vegas while that race was going on, what kind of strategy game does Pfeffer play here? Because maybe this is something Eisler has a bit more experience over him then.
We didn't really get a good look at it because both at Road Atlanta and at COTA, he unfortunately found himself with issues. And Road Atlanta, it was wrecking out, and then at COTA, he unfortunately found himself with a cut course on the first lap and fell way to the mid-pack. So he was never really a factor up at the front. He did gain some spots, I will say, from the pit stops at COTA. It just unfortunately didn't pay off in the end, at least enough to be noteworthy. So we watch our leader come around and complete yet another lap.
And the good news for Pfeffer is there's not a whole lot of strategy you can do in the series. 90% of it is wrote for you. The other good news is even if its strategy isn't his strong point, it's got almost a 4-second lead now, and that gives you a lot of free play.
Absolutely. It could be hard to lose that unless you make a serious mistake. Famous last words. But really, we're watching the best battle of the top group, with Eisler still ahead of Holland and Bassigalupo. I'm going to stay on this just a little longer. We do have things closing up slightly for 7th, but this one much tighter. Bassigalupo continuing to wait to see if Holland tries to strike. I wonder if that's why we're not seeing Holland do anything right now, Sam, if he's not wanting to really give an opening for the number 13 behind him.
Well, honestly, I think Eisler started to run away a couple of laps ago, and I don't know if he made a mistake or Holland got his game back on, but they're close again. So maybe Holland just hasn't had the opportunity to try and make a pass to get second place, so whether he wants it or not. Of course, running behind another car isn't always the worst thing. If you can save enough fuel down the Hanna straight by, you know, under 90% or so on the throttle, that can save you an extra lap or two. That's an extra lap or two of fuel you don't have to stay stationary for in the pits. So Holland, Holland rather, is actually close enough here that he could make a move if he wants to, and he sticks his nose out, but nothing happened and it was too late.
Yeah, it was awful far back, at least to make such a move at this sort of lap in the race. He waits a little bit to the inside down into Vale again, so he's at least starting to think about it, trying to get in the head of the Iceman. Easier said than done.
I think Jonathan Olmanar might have had a cut course earlier this lap. Probably not worth going back to, but worth noting that he was in 13th and he's now down in 50th.
Let's take a glance at that battle for 7th, because that's Henriquez continuing forward, catching up to Fredes just in front of him. About half a second split them as they come into Village and the Loop. Ooh, and behind them, thought I saw, was that a swap of positions between Peterson and Ambrose? Yeah, wow, let's get a replay of this. John Ambrose absolutely mugged his teammate. In fact, he almost lost it right back. You're going to see here it happens into Village. Sneaks up the inside. he pretty far overshoots the corner and just thankfully has the inside for the next one, so doesn't give it up. Meanwhile, it continues to get closer between Holland and Bacigalupo. Look at this. He's within a car length behind. This is the closest we've seen him, Sam.
Yeah, he was challenging earlier this lap. That's why they've lost a bit of time from Isler. It wasn't a move that was ever going to work, really, but because they were running side by side, Isler was able to run away a bit, so Bacigalupo definitely not content around fourth place right now.
He's had enough of waiting around. Off the close once again, coming up to Stowe, but couldn't manage to get a nose in. Now coming around the end of the lap to cross the line. We get ready to start lap 9, and we're starting to get to the pit window, but it's rare in this series, if you're new to it, that we'll see drivers stop early, especially from the lead pack.
Yeah, I wonder if Munoz actually seems to be a bit further back, Joe, than what he was a couple of laps ago. I wonder if that's why Bacigalupo's getting a little bit more, you know, he's just changing his lines up a little bit, seeing if he can gain an advantage anyway. He knows he doesn't have that much pressure from behind right now, so why not try and see if he can do anything?
Yeah, it seems to make sense to me, but he's not going to be able to do anything here into Brooklands. Both of them looking a lot tighter down to the apex, though, than Isler was. Wonder if that car's starting to go a little bit away from him, or maybe we've got Holland finally getting into his head. All three of them along the old pit straight into Copse. Very fast right-hander, especially in these cars. You've got the paved runoff to the outside, but don't want to use too much of it. All of them looking nice and clean through there. Now we hop on board with Isler, looking over the rear wing at Holland behind as they blow it up through the S's of the Maggots and Beckett sequence. Whoa, and that's a mistake from Isler. Way off wide. It's going to hand it over on a silver platter to Holland and maybe even give up 2 spots, because here comes Bacigalupo getting in his slipstream. It's down the hanger straight, staying all the way off to the right side. Isler now drifts off to the racing line, and he manages to keep from being overtaken twice, but that one little error, Sam, is all it took.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's not going to go down. Whoa, more trouble here.
That's Bacigalupo. Wow, that was a sudden move. I was not expecting, he was a long ways back. I don't know how he made that.
I was about to say, I'm sure Lucas was frustrated because he'd been trying to get away from, get by Holland for a little while, and you know, now all of a sudden they were separated because Holland was able to get by Isler and he wasn't. So it doesn't surprise me that he picked up the aggression a little bit. He probably was a bit up, hadn't been able to follow Holland through.
So that's going to change our top order. Still Pfeffer leading, but now Holland in second, Bacigalupo third, Isler all the way down to fourth. That action did cause Paulo Munoz to catch up a bit. He was almost 2 seconds back. Oh, and another mistake from Isler. Wow. Something's got to be wrong with this car.
I think he's just out of rhythm. You know, you make a one tiny mistake or get out of rhythm a tiny bit and it can mess you up. But when you're in the rhythm, you're almost not thinking about what you're doing when you're driving sometimes. You know, you're just hitting the same marks, doing everything lap after lap. The engine sound is like a song that you're playing on repeat. And as soon as that vinyl disc gets a bit of a scratch on it, it makes you not listen to it right.
Is that how the British say vinyl?
It's how I say vinyl.
Well, we can see that Isler's not worried about semantics right now. He's worried about Munoz, who's also catching him at a high rate of knots. This has been a terrible couple laps for Christian Isler. Doesn't get overtaken in the Stowe this time. He's going to manage to hold on to fourth over Munoz. But boy, this car, this Ferrari, has just been struggling to keep up with all those around him. accelerated curve.
Yeah, that's a sausage curve for you. You know, we've had great scraps going throughout the whole field, Joe. I mean, obviously we've had our eyes on this one, but what about the battle for 17th between James LeBlanc and Ted Lowendick, who's trying to make the outside of Stowe work? So Lowendick on the inside here, but now he's back on the undesirable outside, but powers around and gets it done on James LeBlanc. Kenny Rodriguez is watching this battle from behind, and behind them there's another 3-car train as well. Donald Olson.
This is not over yet, though. And to the inside, too wide through Abbey. A very fast corner. LeBlanc got it right back.
Yeah, this has been really dicey. Like I say, this 3-way battle and the 3-way battle behind it. Plenty of action here towards the tail end of the field.
A lot of wheel spin there for Lowendick coming out of club. That might have been what did him in. Great move by LeBlanc. Very brave stuff as they follow each other 3 in a line. LeBlanc in 17th, Lowendick 18th, Rodriguez in P19. No attacks this time down into Brooklands. Some great fighting in the midfield that we see from these drivers. With all the action up front, we haven't had time really to watch down here, but it's broken up there, so you're not missing anything really up towards the top of the field. This is really one of our best battles currently, swinging it down through Copse towards the Maggots-Beckett sequence. Doesn't really show as well here on the TV, but there is quite a bit of a rise up here to this set of corners.
And let's also note, though, that this is top of 2 kind of splits, I believe these guys run with. Division 1, they call it. So even the drivers you see running at the tail end here have pretty decent iRacing.
Absolutely. It is indeed Division 1 out of 2. They have a feeder series as Lowendick takes a look to the inside. Last time he went around the outside of this corner. This time he couldn't quite get to the other side of LeBlanc. So that's going to deny it. And yes, indeed, the Division 2 race happening at the exact same time, although not broadcast, unfortunately. Boy, Munoz has been getting awful close to Eisler at times. Got it down to 0.3 of a second.
Right.
A little bit of Aintree, it looks like. Go ahead.
Eisler's had a couple of calmer laps, and maybe he's finding his rhythm back. I don't know how many incident points, if any, he's picked up today, Joe. Obviously, he doesn't want it to go over 3.
Yeah, he'd love to get those bonus points. Of course, the pole went to Pfeffer. Now, fastest lap. Who's got that right now? I'm curious.
I think it was Munoz the last time we mentioned it, yeah.
56.420. Yes, indeed. He still holds it. And he's the one we're watching right now, just behind Christian Eisler. Munoz there in the white and black machine, the more black machine with a little bit of red on the rear of it. That is Christian Eisler. Right on board now with Munoz.
Yeah, we should also mention that now that the battle... Oh, and as I say that, David Holland's got slowed down. He was eating time out of Pfeffer's lead, about 1/10 or 2 a lap, but all that's gone now, and he's right into this battle with Eisler and Munoz. We'll get a quick replay of what happened to him.
Yeah, we'll want to stick with this until afterwards, because that battle is still going on for quite a while. You can see him having to give up so much right here, and then he's side by side for a number of corners before we get to the battle here of Munoz.
Yeah, we're back to live action now. So you see Holland has been able to hold off ahead of Munoz. And oh boy, that was a bit of a swipe. And that's allowed Christian Eisler to run away in that.
He gets it right back. And I think we've had our first of the takers for scheduled stops. I see Jonathan Almanar now into the pits. Working his way down towards his stall. Doesn't look like anybody is joining him, at least on this lap.
None.
Got a change of position between the teammates again. Swaby managing to overtake Ambrose once more, and that gives him a top 10.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see that many takers this early in the pits, Joe. It's just, you know, unless you're really getting held up, it's not worth it. You don't you can't pinpoint exactly what kind of traffic you're going to have.
I think that's why we so rarely see anybody try to come in early like that. Boy, Ambrose and his teammate certainly having some fun out there. Let's hope that things will continue to go decently for John, though. He's had some very bad luck so far this season in the series. Not just in this series, but in the trucks as well. It's looking very good here coming onto the hanger straight, though, Sam.
Yeah, and obviously if he does have a round, I don't think Swaby being his teammate will put up too much of a fight against him. But no, they switched early in the slump, and maybe they can tend to ride like that as Swaby stays ahead. Of course, Ambrose could always pit if he does seem to get held up, but I think right now they're just complacent to run like this.
Linden way wide coming around Stowe, and eventually got it back to the racing line. But this lap around, he will lead his teammate once more. Let's go back to Lowendick, though. We were watching some action with him before. Rodriguez, side by side down into the corner and around the outside of Vale. Rodriguez going to hold on to it for a minute, but Lowendick looking to get back on the throttle. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out, so the position goes to Rodriguez as the two of them lose touch to LeBlanc in front.
Take back. Yep, go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember LeBlanc overtaking. Whoa, and Rodriguez goes way wide. Lowendick could get it right back here, but is on the outside, and he's very generous with the racing line through the loop, so Rodriguez will not lose the position.
Yeah, take back what I said earlier. For drivers running a little bit ahead of us, it might not be a horrible idea because there is a massive gap between the car in 21st, which is kind of at the tail end of this battle that we're watching on the screen, and 22nd place of, 23rd place of Sean Duhamel. So if you're sitting in 10th or 9th place, there is a big open wide space there on the track for you to filter out if you take an early stop. So maybe some of these drivers who are in these battles it wouldn't be a bad idea to come in for an early stop, I don't think.
Yeah, if you were within, I'd say about 15 seconds ahead of Almanar, because he pitted and he's the one in 22nd where that gap starts ahead of him. Like you said, that's honestly a good idea for them to try and stop into the lane and get it done now. Battle between Munoz and Holland hasn't gone away. In fact, they've re-caught Eisler after the incident with Holland that caused him to have to give up a bunch of time. You can see all three of them within the same shot. And don't forget Bacigalupo there in front of them. Oh, we had a change for position behind them. Henriquez losing out to Fredes. And I think this was a slowdown penalty maybe for Henriquez? Here you can see he's already serving what appears to be a slowdown on the inside of the track and then goes very wide through Abbey. Fredes takes advantage, nearly chops him off through Farm, and gets it done.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, I suppose, that Holland is running down Eisler, because Eisler is not having a good day. Holland was having a really good day in second, was running down Pfeffer for the lead until he made a mistake dropped him all the way back to fourth. So I'm sure Holland wants to get a couple of those positions back and think about finishing this race in second place.
As we watch from Holland's perspective now, looking up at the final spot on the podium. We're just about at the halfway point. And don't need to go to it, but I can tell you that Fredes and Henriquez have swapped positions back, so Ignacio back up to P8 now. I feel like out of all of this, Bacigalupo seems to be the one who has taken advantage of all the squabbling the most, other than, of course, Pfeffer.
I'm sure another driver who's...
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure another driver who's appreciating it. As Henriquez Fredes battle breaks up with Henriquez getting too much curb on the chicane, and that costing him a bunch of time. He retains ninth position, but just means he loses out on that battle with Fredder, essentially, and now he's ahead of John Ambrose. What happened to Swaby then? Swaby must have had a moment, because he's way behind Ambrose.
We're going to check to see what exactly happened.
Oh, wow, Henriquez just got a bump from Ambrose. So Henriquez was kind of all over the place, and maybe he just broke a bit too early, and Ambrose wasn't expecting it. But for whatever reason, Henriquez is really going downhill, and that contact doesn't help him. And to the field's credit, I think that's the first time we've actually seen contact today.
I think you're right. I mean, honestly, my theory is that John forgot he wasn't in his modified today, so maybe he thought he had the chrome horn on the front of it. That moves him up to 9th. Eisler is still very much under attack. And it's not just Holland back there. If he makes one mistake, Munoz is so close behind, it'll be hard for him to keep from losing both spots at once. Let's see them tracking as far out as they can up to Chapel. But Ambrose has had a problem. Ambrose is off course. And this was his own doing, I think.
Wonder if his car's handling a little bit differently with that punch in front of him.
Could be. We're on a good onboard. Henriquez made a great avoidance to stay away from it. This happens through cops. You can see it here. And this is a case where we've got a driver who's thankful for that paved runoff to the outside. Whew. Between both of them.
All the time he's losing there.
At least one that turned the car completely around. Great hands by Henriquez to stay out of that action. And that's going to give him 10th place. John has since come into the pit lane, kind of understandably so. Probably going to get himself to cool down, maybe get new tires. Not sure that he will, as that's generally not the strategy call here.
It simply takes too long, not worth it for a 1 hour long race. And still got all these great battles going out there. You can still salvage a semi-decent day if he, if that's the last mistake he makes. I'm almost a little bit worried, Joe, that first bit of contact we saw happened right at the halfway point of a race. Does that bode for what we're about to see in the second half of this event?
Well, what we're seeing right now is Henriquez already on the back of Carollo. He's caught up to him, but let's not forget the issues that Swaby had. He is the Ferrari that you see behind, the shell liveried Ferrari that is catching them very quickly and probably slightly out of position right now. So he could be a fly in the ointment on this fight.
Swaby has had some interesting races this season. I'm sure he wouldn't be opposed to just having a quiet race at some point. But right now, I'm sure he'd like some action because he's at the back of the train. He'd like to be at the front.
He's going to have to make some action if he wants to do some overtakes. Otherwise, it's going to have to rely on pit strategy. Speaking of which, there goes one right there. Henriquez is going to duck out of his way and take his stop. So will Romig behind him. So 2 more drivers electing to come in and get that out of the way as we continue to watch on board.
3rd, 4th and 5th are still close. In fact, Lucas Bacigalupo has been able to run away from these 3 while they've been worrying about each other. So this is Eisler, Holland and Munoz. And I've started to say it earlier, and I'll get it in now. The driver who's probably loving this 3-way battle for 3rd the most, if not Bacigalupo running away from them, is Anthony Pisano, who's kind of just been hanging around in 6th place all day long. Of course, we'll see if he can break his way into the top 5 later on if something bad happens up here.
Yeah, he could make some serious inroads should this battle erupt. Bacigalupo, I'll tell you what, is no match for Pfeffer today. You mentioned Swaby wanting a calm, clean race. Well, Pfeffer more so wanted, and he's getting it so far. There you see him on screen, nearly 10 seconds ahead of Bacigalupo now.
You know, it's the best way to get a clean race. Put yourself up front. You only have to worry about what's behind you. And he doesn't even have to worry about that right now. Not a whole lot of lap traffic today, and when he does catch up to lap traffic later on, it should easily be able to let him by on one of the long straights around here.
So expecting him to stay out relatively long before he takes his stop. You can see he's just finishing up that other one right now. Down the front stretch into Abbey. Ooh, it's looking awful close between Munoz and Holland now, though. It's about a car length behind. They're going to go through the Abbey themselves. Then it switches directions through Farm and brakes hard into Village. Just not quite close enough.
And that's not helping him. He was trying to get back on the gas too early there, and well, but that helps him. Holland takes a turn a little bit wide. This might actually give Munoz a bit of a run down the Wellington Straight if he wants it.
I'd say it gives him a great run down there. He's got the slipstream, but wow, that's an early lift. So Munoz not really all that interested in the spot. Wonder if we could glance at Carollo, who's just come into the pits and now is coming out of the pits, because remember, he was in a battle with Henriquez, and Henriquez is already pitted, so these drivers will be settling how the pit stops work out right here. Carollo is just barely ahead in time. In fact, I think Henriquez looks like he lost a little bit of time to the number 52 through that set of stops.
I think the pits will start getting busy. You'll notice we're about 2/3 of the way through the race now. I wouldn't be surprised if Pfeffer is forced to come in soon, because he's, you know, a lot of these drivers in the middle of the field, they've been battling hard, but they've been benefiting from the draft and lifting from it when they are kind of forced to give each other a line. Pfeffer hasn't had any of that. He's been flat out the whole time. That's how he's built up a 10-second lead. But I mean, again, even if he's not running a desired strategy, if he's burning more fuel than the rest, he's got 10 seconds. He's got a nice 10-second buffer out there, so it's not going to bother him too much.
Certainly not. So really, it's the battle for the best of the rest, except it's not for second place. It is for third. Eisler ahead of Holland, ahead of Munoz, and Swaby's come in now.
So we'll see where he comes out, because he's been right in the thick of the things around 10th place today.
That's with Carollo, Henriquez, and I believe they had someone else, but I can't remember who. So as he comes down looking for his stall, I can tell you that Carollo's just now coming out of Stowe. There you see Carollo on screen. The blue Ford behind him is Henriquez. Swaby is out of his stall. This is going to be close, though. He's just starting to get up to speed, but Carollo is also up to speed. They come out side by side, but Jeff has got the edge, and he is going to be ahead of Swaby. But I do believe Swaby jumped Henriquez in those stops.
Behind them, John Ambrose just made a pass on Jonathan Almanar. And remember, both of those are pits, and this is Ambrose trying to come back through the field a little bit.
Highest pitter right now is Carollo. Nobody ahead of him has stopped yet.
Well, here comes our race leader. Pfeffer is coming in, and obviously couldn't even try to worry about speeding. just brake early, and I think he did exactly that, you know, get the car right underneath the speed limit before he ever got to the cones, because if he loses a second or two, what's it going to do?
Holland also coming in.
Now he needs to take it a bit more aggressively.
Yes, he definitely does. I wonder if Haas is looking into a virtual team like we've been seeing some do, like Williams, because They should think about Pfeffer, because then we'd have Haas and Pfeffer. That's for all of my fans.
Yeah, I'm sure someone gets that. I was thinking we need a driver with the last name Salt, but here comes Pfeffer out of the pits.
Yeah, he returns in 7th, and he's got clear track in front of him. All there is Elijah Mitchell a little ways up the road, but he should be pitting relatively soon.
Of course, the big question regarding Holland is where does he come out in the battle for second once everyone else pits? I'll tell you what, we've been talking about the Carullo, Swaby, and Henriquez battle, how they were battling on track before the pits. They're still battling on track after the pits, and that's the order that they're in. Trev Carullo ahead of Lyndon Swaby, ahead of Luis Henriquez, very close on track still.
Yeah, heading down through Village there, and don't forget Henriquez just ready to pick up the pieces, but certainly not staying as close as I think he would want to be to this Ferrari and this Porsche in front of him. They hit the Wellington straight now. Corolla with a great exit. Certainly going to deny Swaby the opportunity this time at least.
And Bazzi Gallupo is now leading this race with Pfeffer's stop, but he's lost a bit of time to Isla Munoz behind him. And they're all coming in, all three of them. Well, and very early on the brakes is Bazzi Gallupo.
Oh, no.
Isla was not liking that. He was saying, hey, get a move on.
In fact, there was definite contact between them there on the entry. That is not good news. We're watching the replay from Isler's. Go.
Yeah, and it bogged the revs down right when he had the pit limiter on, so that's why it cost him even more time. And of course, the driver who is going to love this, he doesn't know yet that this has happened unless he's watching the broadcast at the same time, is David Holland. Because Bazzi Gallupo was probably holding them all up on pit entry. That's why Isla hit him. And now Holland might emerge in second place.
We're going to find out in just a few seconds. Holland is out of the final corner. There you see the severe damage on the front of the Iceman's car. The number 18 comes out.
Munoz is ahead of all of them and put a lap cut into the wall on pit exit and might just beat Holland.
Side by side between Holland and Munoz, and they were bobbling through the corner, but in the end, it looks like Holland is going to be able to sneak by. He's finally got the spot coming out of the loop. That was marginal stuff.
Yeah, let's go back 30 seconds and get a replay of Munoz's pit exit, because the lap car of Francisco Iannicelli wasn't making life easy for him. Munoz said, no, I'm having this spot. I'm racing for a high position. It will get a view a bit before this, and he basically put Iannicelli into the wall on pit exit.
Yeah, here it is right here. There it is. Whoa. Oh, yeah, he did hit it.
And that could have been what cost Munoz, being held up a bit in that battle with Iannicelli there, chance of second place.
Absolutely. And incredibly in all of this, Isler managed to stay ahead of both of them, but he's got a damaged car and he's leading the train. This doesn't seem like a good combination. We'll get a good sense of what his straight line speed is right here.
I think if I'm Holland, I don't know if he knows that Isler's damaged, but Holland will want to get by him. Leif Peterson, by the way, leading the race right now. He's still out there.
Well, not anymore. He just came in. So that will hand it over to Pfeffer.
You can win races at Silverstone in the pits.
There you see our leader back up to the front with just about 16 minutes to go. Where is actually Peterson going to come out here? Because there goes Isler, Holland, and Munoz. Pisano's going to go by. Peterson's not looking too bad. Is this going to be 6th place? And Bacigalupo... Oh, did Bacigalupo get a speeding penalty?
That would be ironic, wouldn't it? Because he stomped on the brakes way too early. I'm wondering if he did get a speeding penalty because of the little punt that Isler gave him.
That could be. It's 15 seconds more than usual if he had about a 13-second stop. So yeah, I'd say the number 13, unfortunately, had to sit there for a little bit longer than he wanted to, and that's put him in 7th place now. Remember, he was in 2nd easily, and this is fantastic news for Eisler, again, because he wants as many points as he can get in this championship.
Yeah, Eisler's doing well out there with that damage. He's been able to hold on to what is 2nd position now.
Unfortunately, I think with that contact, I have to imagine that was a 4X, which would disqualify him from the clean race bonus. Sometimes Ferraris can have an ugly smile, apparently. Down into Stowe. He manages to keep the smile that this 2nd place is bringing him as he stays ahead of Holland. Closing it a little bit now, though. Back on the front stretch. It is Ferrari versus Ferrari versus Ferrari, and that was a way wide of an exit off of club for Paulo Munoz. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. He's now about 8/10 back from Holland.
I'm trying to work out how Pfeffer's got a 13-second lead out of all this. I'm sure he took it a bit cool on pit entry, and he probably was burning a bit more fuel than the others because he wasn't in the slipstream of anyone. But even if he didn't take that much fuel on his stop, even if he short-fueled, he can save gas. That's the great thing about having a 12-second lead. If he wants to lift down the straights, he can.
Yeah, I'm looking at the pit cone-to-cone time and the pit stop time, and he's pretty even with those around him. So my guess is it's just been raw pace. Remember, he pitted on slightly different laps from those around him, so it seems that while he was on his own, he just simply was pounding them out.
We've had our first retirement from the race, by the way, a few laps ago. Spencer Samkowicz, he was running towards the back of the field, and that's the first retirement we have had in over 3/4 of this race.
And out of 25 starting cars, but look at how close Holland is getting, and this is his best opportunity yet. He is within a car length of Christian Eisler, who's going to stay tucked to the inside. He's going to force him to go the long way around, but we've seen this move work with other drivers before. How canny is Holland? Not canny enough. He loses out and eventually slots back into line.
He might try and move down the inside here, but he tried to do an over-under coming out of Stowe, but of course the way the track's laid out, that doesn't work because the next corner is a left-hander.
And I have a feeling that Munoz is really wanting him to go on the attack because that'll allow him to gain some time back, which he's still been chipping away at. He's got it down to 0.4 of a second, and that braking zone into Village looked very good from him. Maybe a sneak attack into the loop. Nope, not quite. Holland, though, poking and prodding and squirming the tires as unfortunately he gets a little bit too greedy on the throttle. He is still going to be in that slipstream as they come down the Wellington Straight. Could this be enough? He's gaining on him. He doesn't look into the inside as they now break for Brooklyn, so he's not willing to risk it. He's a little wide at the entry, but cuts it off nicely.
Yeah, I think it was by design, but it almost backfired on him. Munoz almost got a nose on him. Yeah, Eisler was kind of a little bit wide on the turn before the Wellington Straight. That kind of gave Holland an opportunity to make something happen. He just didn't take it, or maybe he didn't get a good enough run himself. And up to the next best passing opportunity through Magnussen Beckers. What the sad thing for Holland is the easiest way to make a pass on exit, of course, is to be cold on the entry, so back off a little bit here. But the problem is he can't do that too much because then Munoz is going to be all over the back of him. But Holland's got a nice run here. Eisler was way wide on the exit of Beckett's. He's not going to get a good run down the straight. Holland doesn't even need to pick up a draft. He's just going to pull to the inside of him, and Holland may very soon have second place. And in fact, Eisler's going to roll out a little bit, let him go in front so they're single file, and maybe Eisler's just trying trying to stop the bleeding here. Give Holland second so that he doesn't lose third to Munoz.
Well, if that's what he was planning, it seems to have worked because Munoz could not try and get by through Stowe. But that still takes precious championship points away when his rivals are not here to try and pick up. Ooh, in fact, he's got to go defend. Oh, well, what's going on here? That was definitely a lift. I wonder if his damage is hurting his fuel mileage.
Trying to imagine if he would have got a slowdown at any point, but whatever happened, Munoz in third. And the good news for Eisler, as long as he doesn't have any fuel issues, which he may do, because remember, he did gain a lot on his competition during that round of stops. But the good news for him is he's got a bit of a break now. If he's got enough fuel to get to the end, he should get fourth at work.
Remember, we were talking about not having many hard chargers. I think Carollo has responded to that critique because the number 52 is up to 9th, but he's not out of the woods because that's Swaby directly behind him and Henriquez, who we saw in a battle both before and after the pit stops. Carollo from 17th, and that was with a qualifying time, so this is a legitimate hard charger, and now up to 9th.
Yeah, nothing bad happens when you go into the woods. As long as you leave after the first act, it's you know that's actually what we happened on the tangent. I was in a high school play of that, and we had some elementary kids come to watch it. We're like, we're just going to show them the first act because it goes downhill after that. Hopefully the second act doesn't go downhill for Carollo here because he's, like you said, had a nice first half of this race.
Oh, and we're on replay. What happened here? Apologies, as we're back live now, and Carollo still doing all he can to keep the Pirate back.
What? Something happened to Holland. Because David Holland is down in third place, far behind Munoz now.
Oh, it was a slowdown penalty. And
second
this
one today.
And the same spot as well. It was out, or it was through the Maggots-Beckett sequence. Here he serves it right here. And Eisler was not able to get by, interestingly. Or maybe he didn't want to get by. We saw him let both of them through.
I think this is the first time today that we've seen Munoz up in second, and he has the fastest lap of this race. So, I mean, I know he's 15 seconds back, but it's interesting to see if he can, you know, dig a little deeper, put in another quick lap, or if Pfeiffer does have any fuel problems in the penny trial. If Pfeiffer does have any fuel problems, then you know, maybe Munoz could get up.
He's already missed 2 races as we glance at ninth once more, which is closed up. So Munoz also not in the championship hunt, but he is in 10th place. So his finishes that he's had when he did show up have not been too bad, and this will certainly help there as well, but unlikely he'll be able to run down our leaders overall as we ride on board now with Carollo looking back at the Ferrari of Swaby. Ooh, Swaby way wide though, coming out of Copse. That's going to open the door for Henriquez. He's going to try to take the opportunity to step through it, and he does with a little bit of curve to the inside of the Maggots-Becketts, but he gets it planted. Nicely done by the 55.
Henriquez is having a bit of a comeback race after some misfortune earlier. So that's a nice feather in his cap to get back up to top 10. Now let's see if he can get back to where he started. He out-qualified Carollo by 7th position, so you'd think he might be a bit faster on pace.
Yeah, but thus far, Carollo's been pretty calm in front of them. They are approaching Fredes as well. Whoa, as Swaby almost has a go at Henriquez there going through Vale, and that actually hurt him, as unfortunately he has to back out and loses a ton of time.
I wonder if Henriquez has unorthodox racing lines, because we also saw Swaby's teammate Ambrose get to the back of him earlier. I wonder if he just approaches a couple of his corners a bit different to his competitors, and that's why things get a little hairy around him a couple of times. whatever it is, you know, it's making it work for the most part. He's running 10th place and might be able to get one more before this race is done. Maybe even two more if he has enough time to run down Freddes. So we're running out of time on that clock, Joe.
It'll be 5 minutes left to go and just a couple seconds. Those three going to stay in order. Although Enriquez looking very strong coming through Brooklands. Keeping half an eye on Munoz and Holland because they've been down to 3/10 of a second at the moment. Nothing's happened up there yet. Holland's got to be kicking himself a little bit.
Something's happening there, Joe. Munoz is going very slow all of a sudden, and Holland is right on his gearbox. Here he goes. He's to the outside down the Hannah Straight.
Oh, and they almost come together, nearly banging doors. Being squeezed to the inside. Munoz overshoots the corner. That's the desired effect that Holland wanted, and he'll take the spot with ease.
All right, now Holland has got to complete the last 4.5 minutes without getting another slowdown if he wants a second place.
Let's watch that one more time. Rarely do those squeeze moves seem to work out in iRacing because the driver, unless they've got a 3-monitor setup or a rift or something, it can be hard to see to your side, Sam. So tangles usually is what we see happen.
Yeah, I mean, I like how Holland just must have known that Munoz was never making that turn, because Munoz went in so much deeper than him. He must have thought, well, I braked on my braking marker, so I don't know where he's going.
Well, Holland knows where he is going because he's right now got about a second over Munoz, even though it's 16 seconds up to Pfeffer. He's probably about as good as he could hoped as far as position. In fact, we're taking a look at Christopher now. 3.5 minutes left to go. He's going to cross the line with 2 left, I believe.
Either Pfeffer's really, really fast without burning a lot of fuel, or he's on the 2-stop strategy and is going to win this on the 2-stop strategy. One or the other, Joe. He's shown them all up today.
I think he should be okay on fuel. He's been to enough of these shindigs that he knows how it's done at this point. That was the lapped car of Sean Duhamel, who is currently down in 23rd. Not the last car on the race. In fact, we've only had 2 cars get lapped now, with Sean being put one down. Boy, Carollo just cannot get away from things. He's still got Enriquez right behind him. Down the hanger straight. Luis looks a little bit too far back this time, but he's going to get a few more chances here. Stays right with him. And now they really have caught Freddes. I said that they were gaining earlier, and well, it is about half a second, but Carollo can't really be looking forward. He's got to look backwards. Over his shoulder is Enriquez, just right in his tire tracks, coming through Abbey. Could he maybe send one up the inside into Village? How brave is he going to be? He starts to fall back in the wake, and unfortunately, he's not quite there.
These drivers are within 2 laps left to go, and that's good news for Freddes, because that might, you say they're catching him slowly but surely, maybe they're catching him slowly enough that they might not get Freddes by the end of this race. Shout out to some of the drivers in the top 10 we haven't mentioned a whole lot. Pisano looks like he's going to get top 5, Leif Peterson looks like he'll get 6th, and 8th through 10th still to be decided.
Still watching this fight down through Brooklands and Luffield and back out through Woodcote. I can tell you that Munoz is not close enough to attack on Holland right now. He's fallen away from him ever since he got overtaken. Interestingly, Christian Eisler also still about 1.5 seconds behind. Remember, we got to keep an eye on him in case he is short on fuel. But Pfeffer, there's another one for you, Sam. Out of the final corner to take the white flag.
together a solid race today. The leaders, the rest of the leaders making their way to the white flag. Isler staying out, so looks like he's got enough fuel to bring home a 4th place finish. It's not as good as it could have been, Joe, but for whatever reason, it seems this track hasn't suited Isler today, so maybe 4th place is something that he'll take.
Yeah, I'd love to get to talk to him to get his thoughts on that as we watch the battle back for 8th position, still raging on. Fredes leading Carollo, leading Henriquez. And then, of course, Lennon Swaby is still within reach, especially if they start battling.
Yeah, again, Fredes just needs to do a lap without any mistakes, and he might be able to hold on to 8th, but Carollo is catching him a little bit. Now he's catching him a lot because he just threw it in deep, but I think that might have been a mistake by Carollo because now Fredes is going to get a nice run down the Wellington straight. Enriquez really got a bad run out of that corner. So now the battle was for 8th and 9th actually. 10th on back is a bit out of reach. They're going to have their own battle, but Fredes and Carollo are going to fight this out for 8th.
I'm keeping an eye on the leader, so don't worry about that. There's, again, no one challenging him. So we can go to him as soon as he gets close to the line. But meanwhile, watching from on board, or Fredes rather, looking back at Carollo. He's getting close up through Cops now. Don't have much of an opportunity, but we've got to duck away to Christopher Pfeffer. Because into the final chicane, I said he's going to look for redemption. I think he's found it here in England. Christopher Pfeffer, your victor here today at Silverstone.
And 16 seconds down the road, it's going to be a well-deserved 2nd place from Holland. It looked like he would get it a couple of times, but he's going to get 2nd. Munoz, he had an exciting race. He's going to get 3rd. And then, of course, one of the bigger stories is Isler back there in 4th place. Is that good? Is that bad? We'll find out at the end of the season. Great battle for 8. Still going on. Joe Carollo down the inside of Fredes into the final chicane.
Oh, they almost come together, but Fredes looks like he manages to pull it out in time. And that's going to give him that 8th place. Carollo settles for 9th. Enriquez not able to take advantage either. He'll round out your top 10. Woo.
And Elijah Mitchell joined the tail end of that train for 12th place right there at the end.
Sadly, there's not really much in the way of battles with the rest of the field. Everybody's spread apart by about a second. Although Ambrose is looking a little slow. I wonder if he's short on fuel. I think he might be. Yeah, he is. Ambrose is losing positions quickly. And he is sputtering now. Offline, letting everybody through. Well, that is gutting for the double lot. And I think he's going to wind up with 18th place.
Yeah, it's always not a good idea to run out of fuel when there's that many cars still left on the lead lap. Unfortunately, a clean race for Ambrose today. For the rest of the field, is going to cost him at the end. I think we're about to take a quick break, Joe.
Yep, it was time to make the donuts for Pfeffer, but it's time for us to just step aside for a bit. We'll be back, though, with a post-race show, which includes the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them 4 abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
back to Silverstone. We just watched round 6 in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series, and Christopher Pfeffer is the first driver that is not Acosta or Diaz to win this season. Granted, neither of them showed up today, but Pfeffer was there to pick up the pieces. David Holland wound up in second place. He was within our top 5 in the points, so this will be a nice day for him. Paulo Munoz, despite missing 2 races, will certainly jump up a couple of positions, rounding out the podium. Christian Eisler was really the one that wanted more out of this, and unfortunately could only get a 4th. Anthony Pisano with a P5 behind him, battling with Leif Peterson for a bit. Leif managed 6th place with Lucas Bacigalupo, a driver that probably should have had a 2nd place today, but well, he had a speeding penalty, and we'll have to try and figure out if that was due to the bump or if he sped on his own doing, and he finishes 7th. Ignacio Fredes finishes P8. Jeff Carollo, probably our hard charger of the race, from 17th on the grid to 9th, and Luis Henriquez rounds out your top 10.
In 11th position is number 100 car of Lyndon Swaby. Following him at the end of that train from like 8th on back at the end of the race was Elijah Mitchell. Then you have to jump back a few seconds before you get to Sean Romig in 13th place. Horatio Calkim, I believe he went the wrong direction at the start of the race, so he made back up for it by coming back up the field through to 14th. Led Lowendick rounds out the top 15. Jonathan Almanar, he was one of the first drivers to pit. Didn't really work for him in the long run. He comes home in 16th ahead of James LeBlond. John Ambrose ran out of fuel at the end, but was able to make it to the finish line in 18th place ahead of Kenny Rodriguez and Joey Trungale in 20th.
Donald Olson finished in 21st, with Stacey Dunnigan being the last one on the lead lap in 22nd. Sean Duhamel was 23rd, and Francisco Yaniselli 24th, both of them 1 lap down. The only DNF for the race was Spencer Semkovich in 25th, and Schilling, as we mentioned earlier, was a did not start for today. We have our winner ready to talk to us. Christopher Pfeffer joins us. Chris, at the start of the show, we talked about how the 2 miserable races you had recently at Road Atlanta and at COTA probably made you hungry for a win. And it certainly seems so, because you grabbed it with both hands today.
Yeah. First off, I'd like to thank the series sponsors, SimMSA and the ButtKicker, for their support. I'd also like to thank my team, Winston Motorsports, and our sponsors, GTR Simulator. These last 2 races at COTA and Road Atlanta, they hurt, because the pace was there, but I made some mistakes, and they were really tough to get around. But today, everything went perfect. The car was fantastic from start to finish, and I'm just really happy.
Absolutely. Understandably so. It certainly seems like you had a perfect race, because we were watching, and really it's hard to ask you about much of what went on. The only thing that I can think is Sam thought that maybe you had a little bit of a cautious entry into pit lane. Were you just kind of taking it easy in there?
Yeah, the track was so much hotter than when I was practicing, so I didn't want to take any risks with any lockups or anything, so I took a bit of a cautious entrance into pit entry.
The elephant in the room, of course, is that we didn't have both Diaz and Acosta here today, so that made it a little bit easier on you, but maybe you could find yourself challenging them next week. Was this renewed energy help give you some hope for Barcelona?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to celebrate this one too much, because Diaz and Acosta, they're the benchmark of the series. Both of them not here tonight, it kind of takes away from a little bit. But, you know, I'm really looking forward to Barcelona next week to see what I can do.
Well, congratulations, and we hope to get to talk to you in a week's time.
Thanks, guys.
Christopher Pfeffer, our winner here today. 2nd place went to David Holland. Sam is going to be talking to him about what was an up and down race.
Yeah, David, congrats on 2nd. I've got to be honest, I thought you were the 2nd fastest drive out there today. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, if maybe you thought you were the fastest, but just a couple of slowdown penalties that kept things interesting throughout the race.
Yeah, hey, Joe and Sam. Yeah, you know, I'm not sure why I decided to make that race so hard on myself. I don't know that I had much for Christopher, but congrats to him, and congrats to Munoz there on the podium. But yeah, like you said, I picked up a few, I think it was actually 3 time penalties, all in the same corner. And then on lap 1, I almost lost it. So, you know, I'm just happy to be up here.
Now, you pitted a bit earlier than most of the drivers you were racing for second. They had a bit of a skirmish on pit entry. Eisler got into the back of Bacigalupo's car. Were you aware that Eisler was carrying damage there towards the end?
No, I actually didn't know that. I did see something come across the screen. I think Isler was apologizing to him, but I actually had that exact thought that running down there to that pit entry, it's pretty hairy. You try to cut it as close as possible, hard on the brakes, and I was pretty close on fuel. I could have made it another lap, but decided to take the clean air into it.
I ended out not being a bad decision. You had some great battles out there. How tricky was the circuit? And not just temperature-wise, but how tricky is the circuit? It's still kind of new to iRacing.
Yeah, it is pretty technical. You know, the last sector there, it's very slow, and you've got to be perfect with it. Otherwise, it's really easy to get the car out of shape and potentially lose it. But I really like it. I enjoy this layout. It's nice.
All right. Well, thanks for coming to talk to us, David. Congrats on second. We'll hopefully speak to you again soon.
All right, thanks. Just want to say thanks to SimMSA and ButtKicker for sponsoring the series. Thanks to PRL for organizing, and thanks to you guys for broadcasting the GSRC. Also, need to thank the Shell V-Power team. We put in some laps to get a good setup under us, and it turned out great. But also, thanks to Shell for sponsoring us. Appreciate it.
That was our second place finisher, David Holland. With us now, we have Paulo Munoz, who was the last spot on the podium. Paulo, I'm going to jump to the middle of the race when you had your pit stop. It looked like that exit was a little hairy, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I wanted to give David just the right amount of room, but like on the right-hander, I think it's turn 3. I just understeered into him, and thankfully nothing happened. But still.
Well, I wasn't thinking of that so much as it looked like you made contact with a lapped car, even coming out of pit lane itself.
I honestly didn't notice that. I was so focused on being close to Christian ahead that I didn't look back.
Wow. So very, very focused. Good thing you didn't notice it didn't shake you out of that focus. It gave us some excitement. You were right there with Holland and Eisler for much of that battle. Were you kind of just waiting for something to happen with them for you would be able to take advantage of their fighting, or were you actively trying to get involved?
I mean, at first I was trying to save fuel behind them. And at one point, I got to a point that I had to push in order to stay with them, so there wasn't much point on doing that. And at the end, I was just trying so hard to stay with them because the tires were shot at the end. I wanted to get second, but I just didn't have the pace in the end.
You've missed 2 rounds, so that obviously gives you a 0 in one of the races and takes up your drop week. So what are your plans for the rest of the season? Will you be missing any more? Because this will be a big boost to your points haul.
Yeah, it's tricky because I'm an airline pilot, so working it's not easy to be in all of the races. I know for a fact I'm not going to be doing Barcelona because I'm going to be flying that day, but I will be doing Monza and Interlagos next, so hopefully it doesn't affect me much.
Well, sad that we won't get to see you back and you'll take another hit in the points. But again, congratulations on a podium today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That if I can, I want to thank, of course, SimMSA and the ButtKicker for sponsoring the league, and also the ButtKicker, JL Designs, and Formula Hypersoft News for sponsoring RSR eSports, my team. They're a big part of what we do.
Well, that's great gratitude there from Paulo Munoz, our third place finisher, and just goes to show how multi-talented we have of participants in this series. An airline pilot. Always interesting to find it a bit more about the drivers' backgrounds. But it's time to close it up today. And of course, we want to give our thank yous as well to those sponsors. Once again, if you want to check them out, you can find SimMSA at SIMMSA.net. And that is the Simulation Motorsports Affinity, if you want to see how you can get involved with the world of sim racing. Also, the ButtKicker, who can be found at thebuttkicker.com. All kinds of sim gear to help you in your immersion if you want to make your rig that next level better. And also another thank you to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe so that you don't miss a moment on the iRacing eSports Network and the PRL GTE Sportscar series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Sean, and Delia. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check us out on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. We mentioned it. We're heading over to Barcelona, just a hop skip over the channel to Spain. And that'll be Tuesday, October 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.